Hey everyone, welcome to another podcast interview from Scale My Cleaning Business. My name is Alex Dennery. I'm the co-founder of Scale My Cleaning Business, where we help commercial cleaning companies scale up their businesses. Today I have a very special guest, Mark. Really happy to have you on. We actually recently connected on Facebook, finally coordinated a time to speak, which is awesome. And Mark has been in the industry for quite a while. Very long time. Has started multiple successful cleaning businesses. He actually helps other cleaning businesses as well, which is awesome. And I definitely wanted to dive into some of his tips and things he's seen along the way. And he's very involved with this industry. So we're going to first get a little into his story, and after that, we'd love to hear some of your knowledge, some of your wisdom, that you've gotten over, the course of your career. And also, Mark is also a podcaster as well. What was the name, by the way? It was a very clever name.
Yeah, Beyond the Mop.
Beyond the Mop. That is, I love that name. Like, I don't know, how did you come up with that? Like, that's a cool name.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, I was digging through names and I was going through my head. It's like, what can I name this podcast? Is the only thing that's stalling me was the freaking name. And I came up with the perfect name, and someone else launched a podcast at the exact same time I came up with that name. And it's like, it's like two people wearing the same shoes to prom or whatever, same dress. So I had to go change it. And I told Lisette, my wife, I said, I'm really bummed with this name. I don't know what to call it. She said, just call it Beyond the Mop. And then she walked away. It's like mic drop or something. It's like, that's perfect.
Where did she come up with that? Like, she like, it's like she'd been thinking. I mean, I'm not creative. I mean, I can't come up with stuff like that. Like, that's cool though. But yeah, Mark, really appreciate having you on. Definitely. I think we got a lot to dive into with your story. I know you were sending me some information about it. But yeah, like, what do you think was maybe the starting point where you actually maybe started to, doesn't even necessarily have to be in janitorial, but where do you feel like you kind of started with getting the experiences that you transitioned over to janitorial, or how did you kind of get started with all of this?
Well, hey, thanks for having me on, Alex. How many of us are born saying, I want to start a cleaning business? I don't know if many people who want that or mention that. Some probably do, especially in generational businesses. But coming through this, I was born to non-entrepreneurial parents, but my grandparents, they own multiple businesses. Some were flops, some were very successful, some made them millionaires. And I realized real quick that owning a business, even though the risk is there, that's where it's at. So starting at age 15, 16, I have always owned my own business every year since then. And it's different ones, from part ownership into a restaurant to distribution company, consulting business, you name it, I've done it. And it probably came to a head when I was finishing up school. I studied political science and economics. Pre-law was the focus. And so in law, I realized, you know what? I need to learn how to apply that knowledge to maybe a future business I own, or apply that knowledge to someone else, and maybe I can make a killing off of it. And so I'd started a consulting business right about that time. And one of my first clients was actually my father-in-law. He owned a commercial cleaning company. Picture this, Alex. His contract was like a written sheet of paper, photocopied over and over and over again. And what he did, he just put whiteout on it and would photocopy again, fill it in, and that's what he would send out as a proposal. It's nothing screams sales like a photocopied contract, right? But
God.
That was his sales process in his cleaning business. And so in 1997, he asked me to come aboard just to do contracts. And so the contracts were one-sided, as written by one of his client's attorneys. I totally redid them from scratch. And that's when I learned that he was using these contracts as a proposal. And it's like, no, you need a formal proposal. You can't be sending a contract as a proposal. So I came up with a whole new process for proposals, and that's how I got started in the cleaning industry. And he eventually asked me to do sales.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. Did you, kind of going on your first experience with seeing your grandparents having multiple businesses, I can relate in a way. Actually, my grandparents have they're into like real estate and a couple other things. Was there like a switch for you that made you realize? I mean, that's a pretty young age, 15. I think a lot of entrepreneurs, maybe wish that they started, younger rather than later. Is there something that was like a switch for you at such a young age to realize, hey, this is the best option for me to, really be able to grow something, really be able to build something?
Yeah. So I saw them at such a young age, not struggles. They're coming through their twilight years, right? By that point, and they're already seeing success. But I realized early on that my parents, if you ever read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, you have, the true father who is, 9 to 5 corporate government worker and everything, safe job. But he wasn't as well off as, his friend's dad, right? Who is a whole lot better off as a business owner and entrepreneur. And I realized real quick that if I wanted to have success in life, if I want to have a 9 to 5 job, that's great. I'm not knocking jobs, but if I want to have a 9 to 5 job and work 40, 50 years of my life for a golden watch, there's nothing wrong with that. But that just wasn't me. I didn't want to be sitting in recycled air or, artificial plants in the room or, dust everywhere and some corporate office with no windows. I wanted to be free. I just wanted to have the ability. So I wanted to emulate my grandparents, not my parents. And so what solidified it was lawn mowing business. I started doing lawn mowing just like any other entrepreneur teen in here, right? Did the lawn mowing thing. And of course, that's out of Florida. And when you're mowing, half of it's sand anyway, kicks up, gets in your nose. It's awful. It's gross. I didn't want to do that. But in high school, an opportunity came up. I realized there's a pattern when some of my students, or not students, some of my classmates, students in the high school were taking their tests. A lot of the teachers delivering these tests were doing the same tests over and over again, year in, year out. They're just changing the dates.
Yeah.
And so I learned early on that I could create study aids and predict the questions to the test, write the answers to the test, and use as a study guide for my fellow classmates. So in high school, we had 7 classes throughout the day. I would create these study guides and I'd sell them for about $5 a piece per test. And you might have 4 or 5 tests during the school year, right? Or during the semester. So I'd make, $25 per student easily times 10 kids in the class, $250 a class. And so it's just pocket change. I had fun with that, creating,
That's cool.
Doing the analytics with that. And so I realized, there's a really good business in this. And,
man, I wish we went to the same school. I could have used that. I was like,
I could definitely got you straight A's, man.
It's the worst.
Easy straight A's.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really cool though. I'm always curious about how, people make that transition. I think it's always different, it's always a different story. But that's, and it seemed like at a pretty young age, you got introduced to the janitorial industry. Like, I don't know, what age was that when you were working for, with the proposals, the contracts? Was that
Sure.
a couple years, I guess, from after that, after you kind of, tried a couple different projects?
Yeah. So I started off at one university, disinvited to that after a year and a half, went to a second one, Old Dominion University, did really well, got some great grades, left there in 97. So I was 21 years old and it was during a recession, downtime. I'd done a lot of job interviews. Nothing was sticking. I owned a business already by that point, but it wasn't successful to keep me at home. So I needed a job, or at least a part-time job, just to get me through. And that's when my father-in-law said, "Hey, come work with me."
And then when you saw, it sounded like from what you were saying, you were mostly focused on kind of that contract proposal side. Did you have a realization of, hey, these other sides, maybe sales or other parts needed to be improved? Or how did you, was that something you kind of initiated, or you just, he was asking for your help, or how did that kind of come about where you were kind of managing or learning how to grow the different parts of the business?
Yeah, to turn back the compass clock a little bit, it probably hit a high of about 2.4 million in revenue in the early to mid 90s.
Wow.
So they were very successful. When I came aboard, they were just making 600,000 a year. They took a big hit in revenue.
Wow.
And 100% of their revenue, 100% of their clients came from referrals. They had no sales process. They weren't calling people. They weren't networking. It's just referrals, referral-based marketing. And when I came aboard, he said, hey, we got a problem here. I'd like to grow the company. I need to make more money and grow this. And I said, well, what's your goal? He goes, well, I'd like to triple in size in the next 2 years. And I took that goal to heart and I said, let's triple in size in the next 2 years. And so I created a whole sales process. I said, I've never sold before in my life. So other than my girlfriend, well, actually then fiance, now my wife, through the family business, by the way, job security, guys, job security. Well, anyway, so I went through that and I realized, I need a sales process. I need to learn how to sell. I need to figure out how to handle objections, figure out what unique selling propositions are, value props, so forth. I needed to know all that. And the best way to do that, end up signing up to a Dale Carnegie sales course. I said, hey, if you're going to have me work here, I have 2 requirements. I need as many days as I want off because I still have my other business and that's going to be my priority. So I wanted to run that business, but I needed the training. I said, pay for the training. So he put me through Dale Carnegie. We signed up through local Chamber of Commerce events in the area, Chamber of Commerce's networking groups and so forth, just to learn, just to get around people. You got to understand, believe it or not, I am shy and introverted. It took me a long time to lead 2 people in silent prayer. I'm just definitely afraid of people. If you go to a networking event, I'm the guy standing in the corner, just watching, having fun, drinking a drink or whatever, having fun, watching other people have fun. I mean, that's fun for me. For me, talking like this is 100% out of my comfort zone. But I realized I need to get out of my comfort zone if I wanted to grow and grow the business. Without growing myself, I can't grow the business because that's what I had going for him.
Yeah. What advice would you give? I feel like that's really powerful. What advice would you give to someone who is either starting a cleaning business or maybe they're starting to get a couple clients, could be residential or commercial, but maybe their skill set or their personality doesn't align with what is needed to get done to grow the business, like sales or getting out there like you were doing. Is there any recommendations you would give to them to kind of initiate that and really start to work on that, improve that?
I'm an avid reader, as you can see behind me. Leaders are readers, right? I recommend everyone just pick up their phone, sign up to an Audible account if they need to. If they prefer paper version, start reading. So that's number 1. Number 2, get around people and learn how to speak in front of other people. Walk up to a stranger in Walmart or Target or wherever and just say, hey, how's it going? I know it sounds kind of weird, but it gets you out of the comfort zone when you do that. When you're in real life selling janitorial, you need to do that anyway. Why not practice it on other people who don't matter, right? Or at least to your industry. So just walk out and say hello to a stranger. I like using, form. Hey, how's your family? Hey, I see you have 3 kids here. Great. I have 4. Where do you take them for fun? What do you do for recreation? What's your occupation? Where do you work at? Do you work in the area? And I know it's tough. So I'm in the Washington, D.C. area. And when you say, hey, what's your occupation? People say, consultant, or they walk away in the other direction, right? It's hush hush in this town. But just practice on other people, learn how to work with other people. And then once you start joining the chamber and all these other networking groups, then you'll be more open to communicating with people. It'll be more natural flowing. And I found the best way to sell these networking groups like Chamber of Commerce for your business is not even talk about your business. I don't talk about Universal Janitorial Services, is the company I run. I don't talk about that company at all when I'm networking in these groups. I want to know about them. I don't care about me. I want to know about them. And over time I could build that relationship and serve them down the road.
Love that. Yeah, that was something I was doing for a while. I used to work with restaurants and I would go to all these events and I would also Chamber of Commerce, BNI, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And yeah, it was always the same thing. I felt like it was, passing out business cards. What do you do? What do you do? And it was always the same conversation. So focusing on that relationship, I think it's a very small adjustment, but I think people that are putting themselves out there, like, it's really easy to do business with people you like. So, it almost comes naturally in a way, if you kind of talk about, the other person, there's, I'm sure you've read the book, How to Win Friends. That's that is Dale Carnegie. Yeah.
Yeah, Dale Carnegie, one of my favorite books. I got 2 copies on the shelf there behind me.
Yeah, all of our group members, we give them a copy of the book because it was just, it's so important, especially like, it's like, even if you're not relying on referrals, like, if you're doing other stuff, one relationship, that can lead to 3 other relationships, and your business can just explode from the right relationships, and it's on the commercial side. Residential, it is important, but commercial side, you can basically go from 0 to 100 so quickly, just by having the right, these skills that you're talking about. It's so underrated, I feel like.
And that's how my father-in-law grew it to 2.4 million. It's just referrals. He wasn't even going to networking events. He wasn't reading books behind me. He's just like, hey, who do you know? How can I serve you? What connections can I make for you? He wasn't even putting pressure on himself. He's just developing those conversations, being loosey-goosey about it. And he grew to 2.4 million just by saying hi.
Yeah, that's amazing. Was there anything do you think that helped when you were at that, kind of like that mark when you came in? I know you said that you built kind of the sales process. Was there anything else that, you feel like helped with, kind of getting back up to, the triple, or, hitting the yearly or every 2 years, the targets and all that?
So yeah, I took it from 600,000 to 1.8 million in 2 years. And I did that. You got to understand, it's 1997. We didn't have Google like we have it now, right? They're barely a year old at that point. So I didn't have the internet to go to. I don't think we had Prodigy or anything like that. But what I did have is a phone book, and I had a telephone. I don't think I even had a computer then. But I have phone book and telephone. I figure I could pick up the phone and just call people and just have conversations. I wasn't there to sell it to them. I was just there to figure out what their needs are. Maybe I could help them in other ways outside of cleaning. And so that's my focus. That became my sales process. And even today, when I do walkthroughs at a location, I don't sell anything to them. Everything I learned in the Dale Carnegie sales course, Sales Advantage, and all these other sales techniques went out the window. I just ask about a dozen questions. I listen, take notes, recap it, and then part company, and that's it.
That's awesome. Yeah, because you're in a very competitive area. You're in DC.
Yeah.
I don't know how many cleaning companies there are over there, but I'm sure there's a lot.
Yeah. Early on, I figure I need to know my competition, and just in the phone book and then through other sources I looked at, we had over 2,000 competitors in the DC area.
Wow.
So I realized I can't worry about my competitors. So I need to create with a differentiator. I got to make us different than all the others. And so that's what we did.
Yeah. Those relationships, again, just like so underrated.
Utilized.
Underrated. I kept saying underrated. Because if they trust you and they like you, and you're giving value, it's hard to replace that, I think. Right.
Right.
Hard to come. It's hard for someone else to, because what I see a lot is, I'm not sure what maybe your feedback is, but especially in like these bigger cities where there's a lot of competition, it's like a price, it's like a race to the bottom type of thing. They're just undercutting each other's price, and it's not a fun game to be playing.
No, in fact, that's the folly that my father-in-law had when growing his company. He came along and figured, okay, I can win contracts by underbidding. And I don't know what logic he pulled that from. I didn't tell him that. And so when he hired me on, he said, Mark, I will pay you 50% of all the profits of any new business you bring in. So naturally, what do I want to do? I want to increase the profit so I get more money. So I would come in, it took me forever and a day to figure out pricing. But once I honed in that practice by doing, right, I realized, hey, if I could price it and then have profit, I'll make so much money. I would hand in my bid to my father-in-law. He would look at the price and he goes, nah, they might say no to that price. So I'm going to cut it by 25%. And it's like, son of a gun, you're eliminating all my profit. And on top of that, so I'm not getting any sort of bonus out of that. And on top of that, he's bidding the price. And his logic was, well, if I underbid it, I could always increase the price next year. That was his logic. It's a failed logic, because if you're bidding with a loss, 3% increase or 5% increase or 10% increase of a loss is still a loss. So his logic was all flawed. He was winning contracts, but he was doing it the wrong way. And after about 3-4 years of that, I quit.
Did you quit because it was, it just seemed like you weren't able to change that? It was just kind of maybe a revolving door with, certain types of clients.
It's a revolving door. I saw myself more in a coach mentality by that point, and any advice I offered was tossed out the window, and he was just stuck in his way. So it's like, well, I still have my other business. I want to grow that. So I just focused on that. And I left the company for the following 8 years or so, just to run another business. But that's one thing he really shot at himself in the foot with, was he was pricing to win it. And that's the worst strategy to do. It's okay to look at price. It's okay to compare your price to what you bid out before. It's okay to compare to your competitor's price, but people don't buy based on price. And I can prove it to you right now, Alex. What kind of car do you drive?
I have a motorcycle.
Motorcycle. Okay. Let's say a car. I know this because I looked at the stats. The number one cheapest brand new car sold in America in 2021 was the Chevy Spark. How many Chevy Sparks have you seen on the road this week?
Nothing I've seen. None. Usually like Hondas, Hyundai, Ford. Yeah.
The number one brand new sold car in America in 2021 was double the price, the Ford F-150 series.
Oh, really?
Yep. That's number one. So double the price for the Ford F-150 versus a Chevy Spark. Well, if people are buying based on price, how come people aren't buying more Chevy Sparks than Ford F-150s? They're buying the Ford F-150 because of value. Maybe it's safety, utility, size, what have you, right? It's not a Chevy Spark where you get flattened like a pancake. So people are buying based on value. And it's the same way in the cleaning business. People are out there to buy based on value. When you're out there selling to your prospects and clients, you're sitting there selling. Often I've seen this in different groups, or like my father-in-law, he was selling based on price. Well, people don't buy based on price. They don't care about the price. They want to know if the value matches up to the price. So you need to show more value, like a Ford F-150, again, size, utility, and so forth.
Yeah. What would you recommend, especially cleaning owners that are starting out, or just, kind of getting started? What would you recommend to them just in their sales process? They're starting to get maybe a couple of opportunities. They're starting, maybe they're a little bit newer to sales. Do you have maybe a question or two that you recommend, or maybe, a common type of value, that, can be introduced to, these opportunities or something like that, maybe?
Yeah. Jeb Blount, if I pronounce his last name right, in the book, Fanatical Prospecting, talks about reaching to your prospects. And if you're going to have a prospect out there who doesn't know your brand or doesn't know your name, it will take 20 to 50 touch points to that prospect in order to win that client eventually, right? Or at least have a chance to do a walkthrough. So it all begins before you do the walkthrough. It begins in your website, your content, your copy, your sales, your advertising, your marketing. All that comes into play before you even do the walkthrough. So what you say 2 months ago matters in the future, if that makes sense. So when you're prospecting out there or doing a walkthrough, they finally invite you and say, hey, come on by, do a walkthrough. What I like doing is listening. I let them lead the walkthrough. I want them to tell me what's important to them. I ask leading questions. I ask, hey, what do you like best about your cleaning company right now? What do you like least about the cleaning company right now? If you were to hire us today, what is one change you'd like to see immediately? And of course, all the other basic questions. How did you hear about us? Do you have a place for our supplies and equipment and so forth, and frequency and so forth? But I like to ask those leading questions. So I'm doing a walkthrough and I try to leave 5 minutes before they want me to leave. And once we're concluding the walkthrough within their property, I'll summarize it. I read I can't remember the source, but someone did a study on wait staff at restaurants, right? They found those who wrote it down versus memorizing it, those who wrote it down, and those who summarized what they wrote down, even though they know it in their head, those who summarize it got more tips than those who just memorized it and walked away.
Yeah.
So I applied the same logic to doing the walkthroughs. So I'll ask those questions. I take my notes, and at the end, I'll summarize it in 5 minutes or less. I say, hey, if I heard right, this is what you want. And I just do the walkthrough and I point through and just summarize it in 5 minutes. And I say, hey, do you have that right? And I nod my head while I say that, right? And they always say, almost always, they say yes. And I say, well, great. And that's it. That's the only selling I'm doing. I'll give a 30-second elevator pitch about our company, how we've been around for 44 years, or the company's been around 44 years, that we serve, provide this, this, and this, and here's what we could do for you. I'll go ahead and put this in a proposal to you, and then we'll get back with you in the next 2 to 3 days with an email proposal. If you got any questions in the meantime, give me a call. And that's it. That's all I do.
Awesome. Yeah, it's simple, you know, but it's, I think the big thing that you're touching on is asking the right questions, listening, you know, and taking good notes.
Very good notes.
Yeah. You do remember things. I even noticed it with myself. Like if I type, you know, when I'm talking to, you know, people that I work with, like if I type or if I write things down, like I'm going to remember it so much better. And it's also I even come up with a lot of more ideas that way, if that makes sense.
Yep.
And it's just, I don't know, it just kind of flows better, you know, and it's easy to miss. Sometimes I think a prospect, they'll say something that could be pretty subtle. You know, maybe it's not even what they say, but how they say it. But it's like, if you're not taking maybe notes on that in the moment, then you're going to forget. And,
Exactly.
you know, and that could help you with your proposal. Like that could be literally the difference between you getting that proposal or not. You know, if they're complaining about maybe their previous cleaner or, you know, something like that, maybe.
Yeah. And I tried to make it all high tech. I remember back when Wufoo Forms was before Google Forms or whatever, they had this set up, and I made these fancy looking forms with little checklists and everything, drop down boxes, and it spit up totals and everything as I went through and did my walkthrough. It was really fancy. And I remember wrapping up one of the walkthroughs as a big property, and for some reason it didn't save the form. Totally deleted everything I typed in. And
Oh, wow.
I realized from that point on, just pen and paper, writing stuff down. Pen is mightier than iPad, and you could get so much more in. And there's times where the client will look to see if you wrote down something. Ever have that happen in your walkthroughs? Right? They're kind of like, is he writing this down? So it gives you a chance to show to them that you care and you listen.
Yeah. Yeah. That's something, one of the first times I invested in myself, one thing that basically in the marketing space, I don't know how familiar you are, but there's a lot of programs, there's a lot of coaches, there's a lot of consultants, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, I remember this guy that I got on the phone with, you know, I'd already been on the phone a couple of times, and he was like every single time, like with other people, it was always, you know, about, you know, basically like me type of thing. Like, hey, like, you know, we can do this for you. It was always like a slideshow presentation and all these kinds of things. But this guy basically had like pretty much an opposite approach. Like he kept asking questions about me, and he was literally just taking notes like on the call with me. And I ended up signing up. I was like, because it was like, yeah, like he can literally solve my problem within X amount of time. Like, you know, there's no reason to not do it. But I took that like that always like stuck with me, because I was always like what you were saying, like that shows that you, like, it showed me that like this person actually cares, rather than this person just wants my money, which, you know, I'm still investing either way, but it's how you feel in the end, right? You know?
I heard this, not, I might butcher it, but people don't care about how much you know. They only want to know how much you care. And so if you're sitting there in your, walk through through your sales process over the phone or whatever you do, and you're just rattling off about you, people don't care about you. Stark reality, right? People only care about themselves. So if you figure out, hey, these are the pain points I could solve for you, you could go so much further in your sales process and get more wins.
I love that. Yeah, I think a lot of people think that, I mean, in sales, that there's these little like hacks and all this stuff, like like sales scripts and all these certain things, which I'm sure a lot of them help, but I think what you're saying is absolutely gold, man. I mean, I hope people watching this can just at least start applying this and just really just, start asking the right questions, start listening, start taking notes. These simple things actually really do matter. Even if it seems small or stupid or something, but you don't know until you actually start doing it and you start comparing it to what you're already doing. Are there any other, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was going to say you learn by doing.
Absolutely. Would you say there's any other, just curious, like, I mean, besides kind of that process, do you think there's any other like pretty big gaps, with people? I know you're helping a lot of cleaning owners that are looking to get to their first 6 figures and beyond. Are there any other gaps that you think are pretty, like, pretty common with a lot of cleaning owners that, they don't understand or they need to improve on?
I'd like to say it does boil down to marketing, because you need those touch points. And I see a lot, they don't have websites. Yeah, you could run a company without a website. Universal ran for years and years and years without a website. But you need to have those touch points in place before you have the opportunity to win more bids. So a lot of people will send out 10 emails and get 0 response and think, oh, this doesn't work. Email doesn't work. Well, I mean, it's a numbers game, right? What are the odds that that email got to that prospect right in their buying window, right at the right time? Hard to tell, right? It's almost impossible. So that's why there's frequency involved. So a lot of people give up just after the first try. So I caution people listening or watching this, keep doing it. Follow one course until success, right? Focus, just keep focusing, do that one thing, dive in for a multi-month period. And then if you feel it doesn't work for you, then move on to the next thing. Try multiple things at once, but try to figure out what converts for you. A lot of people don't know their audience. Their audience is, whatever niche they're going after. Or here's the challenge. People are going after too many niches at the same time. They're going after every commercial client that could be out there. And their brain's getting bogged down from all the possibilities. Maybe they drive through their service area and they see 1,000 buildings. There's no way that they can reach out to all 1,000, right? So you need to hyper focus and be focused on niche and dive in deep with that niche. Become the expert, house cleaner if you're in residential, or be the expert bank cleaner, be the expert church cleaner. So that way, when people Google church cleaning business near me, you pop up in the search results because your website has all that copy in there, has blog section in there talking about all those activities.
Yeah, I love like personalization, customization. It's like one thing I sometimes ask is like if people have like a previous or even just a current job in a certain industry, because it's like if they can speak that, that lingo, like we had a couple of people that were doing more of like the resident, like they were coming from the residential side, and they were okay with doing property management. Or a guy recently from New York, he's starting to get into construction and he's enjoying it and he's doing really good and he's already getting referrals. So I'm like dang, like that's that's a sign that this is something that maybe you can start maybe targeting your messaging towards, with I mean your experience. I mean, yeah, if you speak that language and you have that experience, it's like it's almost a done deal. I think it's so easy to build those relationships,
Don't be a jack of all trades and a master of none.
Did you find, just out of curiosity, like with your company, did you find like a certain, I'm assuming you found like a certain niche, or how did that come about? Like even for you, like, did you have a certain experience that came through, or?
Yeah. So when I told you I left Universal Janitorial Services in the early 2000s, I bought them out in 2010 with a business partner. And the company had always had a foundation of focusing on churches and schools. All the referrals were coming in from churches. They did some property management and stuff like that, but the niche was churches and schools. So we just dove deep on that. Let's just focus. I could tell you in our service area, last time I checked, there's 525 churches and schools just in Northern Virginia, just in Fairfax County and the
Wow.
surrounding, Arlington, Alexandria, if you're familiar with geography here, 525. So I knew with a list of 525, if I had 10% of them, I mean, that's a big business, right?
Yeah.
And I pre-qualify these leads. I don't do small locations. My goal is 6,000 a month and more in revenue, but these are 525 locations at $6,000 a month. And so I had to figure out how to niche and focus on that. And so I just stuck with it. The only thing that Universal did differently then that we got rid of, they offered every service known to man. They offered snow removal. They offered maintenance services, handyman services, unarmed security services. They offered parking attendant services, and they even offered a personal chef service. So when I came aboard, the personal chef service came about because we did a lot of churches, Catholic churches, and the priests don't know how to cook worth a flip, but they live in residence. So we'd send someone over there to cook and clean for them. And so that's how that came about. But something we didn't want to pursue anymore, because now you need food licenses. We were operating under the table and everything. So when I bought the company out, got rid of all of it. We still have one parking lot attendant service, and they pay us $4,000 a month to stand around and stare at a parking lot all day.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So sweet gig, but something we decided not to pursue outside of that one.
Yeah, absolutely. I think sometimes it's like when you have like multiple, services, things going on, it might seem like, in the short term, like, hey, I can sell this or upsell this, but in the long term, that it's like that time, that opportunity cost of that time where you could be prospecting and getting more accounts for maybe 1 to 3 services versus like, 10 or something. I'm sure that can get overwhelming just to try to coordinate that, organize that, train, all that stuff.
Yes. We just looked at the numbers. We realized 95% of our revenue was janitorial and porter services.
Yeah.
And specialty floor work got in that. So it's a no-brainer. It's like, well, why do all these other things and spend money, time in marketing those things and wasting energy and hiring and training for these other things when we could just focus on 2 or 3 and be professionals at it?
Yeah. Would you say there's maybe there's not an exact rule of thumb, but like, what would you say would be a sign of when someone who has a cleaning business can look at their business, look at the data within, their types of accounts, their types of services, and kind of make an assessment like, hey, we should go all in on this or this, like, I don't know. I know it probably just depends. I mean, I'm sure, it kind of depends maybe a little bit, but do you have any advice on that?
I would suggest that you look at your numbers, look at the profitability per job based on each service that you're offering. If you're more profitable in janitorial, stick with janitorial. If you're more profitable in porter or specialty floor work, that's fine, but also consider the opportunity costs. If you want to do stripping wax jobs, right? How many jobs would you have to book in order to earn the same amount of profit where you could spend a heck of a lot less time marketing for a monthly recurring client for janitorial? So you got to balance that. But also a big part that comes into that, what brings you joy? There's nothing worse than doing a job that you hate, right? So figure out what brings you joy. Maybe it is post-construction. Maybe it is specialty floor work. Figure all that out and build from that.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I think it's good to just always yeah, look at the numbers, see what's going on, see what you can double down on, you know. And it's sometimes I think it could be a surprise too. Like you might be going after, you might get an opportunity with, I don't know, like dentist office, and you would have never considered that, or you know, it works out well. And yeah, I think it's good, especially in the beginning, to just kind of pay attention to who is like interested in cleaning, like in your area, like who's valuing cleaning. And I've seen a big jump from area to area. Like for some reasons, for some areas, I've seen medical work really well. I've seen other areas where it's like very competitive, very cutthroat, you know, pricing, you know, it's all about the price, you know, type of thing. That's what they're used to buying from. So, yeah, I think that's really powerful. And then, yeah, when you, I saw your email when you said you bought Universal. I was like, I thought you meant like the company. I was like, or like the Universal, like, studios. I was thinking, yeah.
Yeah, I have Jaws in the back swimming pool here. If you want to pet them, that's pretty friendly on Saturdays. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, that's close enough there. Awesome. So yeah, I think what you're sharing, I mean, it's so valuable. I hope, like I said, I just hope anyone watching this, like, take action on what Mark is saying here. Like, it's not like he's just saying this. Like, he's been in the industry for a long period of time, and he's started and ran, you know, several successful cleaning businesses. So it's in your best interest, especially if you're starting out, to just do these small little changes. Like, this stuff is going to make a huge difference in the next couple of years. And you're going to see that result. You might not see it right away, but, you know, I can promise you guys, like, you're going to see it within the next couple of months, next couple of years, and it's going to be well worth your time there. But yeah, I wanted to, another thing as well is with the podcast, with the coaching, what are you up to, you know, these days? Obviously, you know, you've been doing with different companies with the janitorial, buying the Universal janitorial company. Are you still like running that as well, and doing the coaching and the podcasts, I guess?
Yeah, so I still run Universal. I have a 50-50 partnership, which I don't recommend, guys, with a business partner, and certainly continue to grow it. We focus on janitorial, porter, disinfecting, and specialty floor work, and that's all we do besides that one parking lot attendant. And that led into COVID, right? COVID hit 2020. We were prepared for it. We'd been buying up supplies and equipment, and we're the ones buying up tractor trailer full of toilet paper to keep our clients happy because they're demanding it and so forth. But hey, it hit hard. We lost 70% of revenue by that June of 2020. And we kept it going for a while. We continued to have our clients pay us, even the closed schools. They are continuing to pay us. We're offering them free disinfecting if they paid us for the following month, free handyman services if they continue paying us, if you know what I mean. And so they are getting basically a discount, you know, at our rate versus a contractor. And so we did really well, but there's only so much work you could do on a closed school or closed church because they're among the first to close. So I went to my marketing guy and I said, hey, let's just double down on marketing. Let's double our budget. Let's go all in. And so we went all in. And before we knew it, we had companies that we never heard of before, even marketed to, reach out to us, say, hey, we want to do business with you. We end up picking up some government contracts through that whole time. Yes. And we just grew like a weed. And on top of that, we realized we had 3 types of leads coming in. So we had lead magnets set up, also our contact form on our website. But through our lead magnets, we had local cleaning, or not local cleaning companies, but local prospects who could really use our services. So that expanded our marketing list by quite a deal. We had companies nationally and overseas reach out to us trying to figure out how to keep their facility safe through all this. So that turned into consulting through Universal. So I was consulting them, school districts, government offices, overseas. I remember one of my first clients was in Ireland. So that is really cool. It's like, wow, you know, here I am running a cleaning business in the United States, helping someone in Ireland. And then that expanded into other cleaning companies trying to figure us out. So I knew how to handle the first two set of leads. It's the third. It's like, what am I going to do with all these cleaning companies that reached out, trying to download our free tools and tips through our website and stuff? And that turned into coaching opportunity. So I started reach out. It's like, hey, how can I help you through all this? I wasn't charging a penny. I was doing it for free. And then I was posting all this information for free. You see me on Facebook groups, but I was reaching out through all these leads, having Zoom meetings, conversations, comparing notes, trying to figure out what they're doing and what we're not, and, making adjustments. And that grew into full-time coaching. Well, I shouldn't say full-time coaching, but a big bulk into coaching starting last year, 2021. And so I didn't know how to coach. I've never coached in my life, but one of my first coaching clients, she wins a $1.8 million square foot property or some crazy figure like that. It's like,
that's amazing.
Hey, I need to hire your coach. And that expanded into paid coaching. I hired a coach to help me coach. I want to provide value to them. So I followed a particular coaching method through all that. So my clean pivot was born. I remember our first price was dismally low. I led them through a cohort. And I realized that, hey, people aren't getting value out of this. They weren't treating it seriously because the price is so low, but then grew from there. And my coach late last year, he said, Mark, stop coaching, focus on Mastermind. And so that led into Apogee Mastermind, where I help service professionals, not just in cleaning, but janitorial, landscaping, electrical, plumbing, everything. We all have the same challenges, right? Labor, great resignation. We all have challenges with cash flow. We all have challenges, this or that. So we come together as a think group or trust, basically a board of advisors, and help each other out.
That's amazing. Yeah, it was definitely rough with the hiring situation during COVID. I mean, some areas were hit very, very hard. Like, it was so competitive to do that. And cash flow also, it's like a huge one. That's amazing. So are you doing, I'm just curious, like, are you traveling to different places doing these masterminds? Or I guess you're doing that in DC. Is that every year? Or how can people find out about that?
Sure. Apogee Mastermind is launching right now. And what we do, we hold weekly Zoom calls just like this over the course of an hour. And we just help each other out. It's groups of 10 to 12 people. And we're limited to that. And then we have multiple groups forming at different time slots during the day. I realized I could serve more people as a facilitator instead of relying on one person's opinions or thoughts. Now everyone has access to 10 to 12 people. So Apogee Mastermind accomplishes a lot of that and helps a lot of people grow their own business and grow through their personal challenges as well.
That's awesome. Yeah, masterminds are something that I don't know if you ever read Think and Grow Rich, but it was like one of the chapters in there. I feel like every
up there somewhere.
I'm just gonna point to the back. But yeah, I remember one of the chapters that talked about masterminds, and I never used to value it. I never really sought it out, but I can tell you it's been a huge help. Like, it's the ability to have a problem and have people real time give you feedback on that problem. I think oftentimes us as humans, we tend to think that our problems are just our own, but chances are there's a lot of other people out there, whether it's relationships, business, whatever it is. And also you can avoid future problems. From what I've seen, it's like someone will say something in a mastermind and then something will come up in my business. And then I'll just like remember, like, oh yeah, like this person did this to solve this. And that's how they got to where they were, I mean, there's no ways. So it's not always like one answer to everything, but it's like, getting that feedback is just incredible to have, and getting different perspectives as well. Like
I had no idea what a mastermind was when I joined one in 2016. I heard it on a podcast. I heard a lot of people talking about in different podcasts we listen to, right? Maybe we listen to the same ones, who knows?
Yeah,
I heard this guest on, his name's Aaron Walker, who was a guest on Entrepreneurs on Fire by John Lee Dumas. And he was talking about the power of the mastermind principle that you just referenced in the book. And I realized, you know what? I'm missing out on something here. I don't know what it is. Let me go ahead and work with this guy. He's facilitating these masterminds. So in 2016, I made 26, I do theme years. I made 2016 the year of the mastermind. So I ended up joining Iron Sharpens Iron Mastermind. led by Aaron Walker. And I realized, wow, there's a wealth of information here. You have pastors, you have author, or at least in our personal group, we have authors. An author, he wrote 16 books. A guy in his mid 30s, he just sold his pest control company to a major brand for $12 million. So imagine being 30 something and being a multimillionaire. Now he's buying real estate. So he's focused on that. He also has a pool company. And then on top of that, you have audio visual guy. You have a guy who runs a senior care facility and is looking to buy his first shopping center. And you got so many different people, so many different experiences to draw from. And it's not just about cleaning, but it's everything. And let me tell you a story about what happened through this mastermind. I got into a situation at the Universal Janitorial Services where our then biggest client was pulling in what probably about $35,000 a month in revenue to us. And this client was a private school. Well, the facilities manager of that private school comes to one of our former representatives of the company. He doesn't realize that the guy had left. He called him up and says, hey, if you want me to sign the contract for the following year, you need to pay me $1,000 cash in my pocket. He's asking for a bribe. Now, I'm not judging anyone here. There's people out there who said, yeah, $1,000 for 35 grand a month contract. Hey, that's peanuts. Why not? But then you got other people like myself who value integrity and value the word and value how it broke my core values. And so he would not talk to me. He would not communicate with me. And finally I called the guy up and I said, hey, I have what you're looking for. Let's meet. So I went over to his office, and he's a former CB, tall guy, big muscle guy. And he says, you have what I'm looking for? And I said, no, I don't have what you're looking for. In fact, you're going to hate me after this conversation. I said, what you're doing is stealing. It's really stealing from the school, because now I got to jack up the price by $1,000. So that way the school could pay you through them. And on top of that, it goes against my core values. So I'm not going to do it. And he said, Mark, that's how business is done. And I said, well, it's not done with us. And I said, well, I sure hope that you don't cancel our contract because of this, because I sure hate for anyone to find out. And I left it at that. And I walked out of the meeting. Well, fast forward, I mean, he wanted a proposal months in advance. Well, fast forward to that contract renewal, they declined to renew the contract. We'd been there for 25 years and he fired us. And so through the mastermind, I told him, I kept him up to speed. Every conversation I had, it's like, what do I do? How do I handle this? Do I talk to his boss? Do I narc on him? It's like, no, that goes against my core values too. Let me just keep this quiet and see how it plays out. And after it played out, the mastermind, together as a consensus, they said, no, you should probably let his boss know and just be done with it and walk away. Well, I told the boss, I said, this is what's going on. They launched an investigation. They had already hired our predecessor, or the preceding company. And then after a year, they fired that company. They brought us back on. And guess what? They had to pay a stupid tax. So now I jacked up the rate from 35 grand for the same work to do for 40 grand. So they had to pay more. So we got more profit. We got more money. The guy still works there. I have no idea or reason why they didn't fire him, but supplied all the evidence and everything. And they brought us back. And we stayed there for about 3 or 4 years before they let us go again during COVID.
Wow. Yeah. It's like it's crazy. Cause like that change that you made in that situation was so small, but it ended up regaining that contract,
Yeah.
And I think in general, it's either you're losing contracts or you're losing on potential contracts, and, there's like an opportunity cost, like that as well. But it's like, yeah, if you have even just like a slight bit of knowledge about, hey, how do I switch this? How do I, solve this? It's like, I mean, 40,000 a month, like that's just for one contract. Like that's a good amount of money, so.
Yeah. And so, without the guys there, without the mastermind, I would be floundering. We wouldn't have gotten it back 100% because I wasn't going to say anything to anyone. I was just going to let go and move on for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
But they encouraged me, they pushed me. And it's not just business, but we talk about personal, we talk about relationships, we talk about everything else that goes along with life. But every mastermind is structured differently. I was on a mastermind call right before this call is a marketing mastermind. And we're just talking about marketing. I'm in another mastermind that talks about building masterminds. And so we got that mastermind going. So
mastermind, coach of a coach of a coach, yeah. There's everything out there. It's crazy.
Everything. Yeah. I was in a seminar called the Mastermind Playbook, and it's about developing and building masterminds. And they're talking about one example, and I forgot the kid's name, but he's 21 years old. He graduated from college. He ended up starting a high level mastermind. I think the requirement was like 10 grand a month or something like that to join this mastermind. And so he just got a bunch of people that said yes. And now he uses that money, takes them on crazy trips, team building events, brings in high level speakers. And imagine being 21 years old and being tied up with multi-millionaires.
Do you know his name by any chance? I'm just curious.
No, but I could find out and
yeah.
You.
Oh yeah, that'd be interesting. Awesome. Well, I know we've been talking for a while now, but yeah, that was really I appreciate you sharing, some of your story. I think it's really powerful. And I think there's a lot of things to be learned from it as well. So I appreciate you getting into that. And also just, sharing some of your strategies, some of your tips for, people, especially when they're, starting to get used to this industry and, build up these skills, build up the foundation, all that kind of stuff. Is there anything you can think of, in addition that, you think could help, just especially people that, they're starting and they're looking to get going and, really, launch themselves, establish themselves?
I think you've seen the trend. I've seen the trend myself where there's a lot of new people joining the cleaning industry.
Yeah.
Right. And the good news about the cleaning industry, it's low barrier of entry, right? For $500, you're up and running, right? Not even that. You don't even need that much. But the bad news is it's a low barrier of entry. And so a lot of people are coming in and they're not willing to invest in their own business. And I challenge anyone listening or watching, go invest in your business, hire a coach if you need to. And don't worry about me. Hire some other coach, join a mastermind, some other mastermind. Just get the knowledge base, just get around people who have done those things and have built a high level of success that you could build upon from there, because they've already stepped through the minefield, right? So you don't need to step through the minefield again. They've already done it for you. And now you can learn from their mistakes and then grow on and expand from there. And that's the value of mentorship, being around other people, invest in your own business. Don't be afraid to market. Don't be afraid to spend money on a quality website. Don't be afraid to hire a quality digital guy. I have one that does all of our email website and everything else like that. Don't be afraid to invest, because without those investments, quite frankly, you're not going to grow. You could go out there and bang on some doors. Yes, definitely do that. Invest in time. But if you're not investing time or money in your business, you're sunk.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, I wish I talked to you when I was just getting started. Just sometimes, you got to learn it the hard way, I guess. But yeah, very, very wise. And I appreciate you sharing that, because, whether it's through us, whether it's through you or someone else, but just try to get the knowledge somewhere. Try to figure it out. Don't try to do it the hard way, because you're going to be spending a lot more time and a lot more suffering and pain and stress.
Definitely.
Figure it out, yourself. Yeah, Mark, one last thing. So again, really appreciate you having you on. Where can people find out about, this mastermind, as well as your coaching and your other, maybe your company as well?
Sure.
Yeah, where can they find out?
Yeah. You could go to mycleanpivot.com for the coaching. You could find me all over Facebook, Mark at mycleanpivot.com, great email to use. For the mastermind, it's www.apogeemastermind.com. The site's not live yet. I've just been keeping things under wrap to a limited group. But as we expand, that site will be live. So as of this recording, you probably won't see anything.
Got it. Apogee, is that AP? How do you spell that again?
APOGEE.
APOGEE. Okay, got it. Yeah, I'm actually going to put links. Anyone watching this, I'm going to put the links right below, both on YouTube as well as Facebook and anywhere else. So you'll be able to, access it there. But yeah, thank you so much, Mark. This was an awesome interview, and appreciate Alex coming on. It's been a pleasure.
Well, hey, thanks for having me. If there's anything I can do for your audience, if there's any referrals or contacts I can make for you guys, just let me know.
I appreciate it. Same for you as well. We'll talk after this as well.
Okay, sounds good.